Hi, I'm Jonathan from Enterprise Legal. Today I'm going to be sharing some tips and tricks on leasing with a particular emphasis on the heads of agreement, or otherwise known as the letter of intent. A heads of agreement is a short 1 to 2 page document that sets out the key commercial terms of a lease. It deals with things like the rent, outgoings, the term of the lease, whether there are any options, who pays the fees for the lease to be prepared, and they can include other things from time to time. The lease, when drafted, will be based on the heads of agreement, so it's really important that the key terms are exactly as they should be. And if you're expecting things like a longer term or a lower rent or anything along those lines, they are reflected in the heads of agreement. It'll be very difficult for you to negotiate that after the heads of agreement is signed, because that's effectively the party's first agreement to the key terms. Should a lawyer review your heads of agreement? Obviously we're a bit biased, but we think yes. The reason being is that although for the most part it's non-binding, you do want to make sure that's the case. You want to make sure that you're not accidentally signing something that you'll be bound to regardless of whether the lease is formed or not, or if there are some parts of it that you would like to be binding, that it reflects that. And it's also important to make sure that all of the key terms are understood and reflect exactly what your intentions will be. Remember, a lease document will be 2, 3, 4 or 5 years, maybe more. So it's important that you get that right from the start, otherwise it's going to be sort of a long journey. A couple of tips and tricks for having a heads of agreement prepared. Number one, as mentioned, it's just important that you understand all of it and that it reflects exactly your agreement of what's going to be in place. Secondly, it's important that anything that you think is unusual about your lease arrangement, if it's not reflected in the heads of agreement, it should be. Also, heads of agreements will often deal with who pays costs for the lease to be prepared and what will happen if the lease is prepared but doesn't ultimately go ahead. So for a tenant, you don't really want to be stuck paying landlords legal fees if a lease is signed and you're not really happy to go ahead with it. Conversely, if you're a landlord, you don't want tenants wasting time having heads of agreements and leases prepared only for them not to go ahead because they weren't ever that serious. So it's an important commercial consideration to discuss at the time the heads of agreement is signed, otherwise it can be a bit of a sticking point later on in the piece. So whether you're a tenant or a landlord, if you're looking to lease, then get in touch with us and we can review your heads of agreement, or we can prepare one for you. It's a very important part of the deal to get right from the start. So contact the Enterprise Legal Business and Property team and we'll be able to help you out.